You're listening to the Love Monday Podcast. The place where you get to dream big and obsess about your vision of success. This is where your life changes. Grab your pen, your paper, and your energy, and let's dive in.
Hey everybody, I am your host, Shauna Kay. Welcome back to another episode of Love Monday, the podcast that is designed to bring you right up to the door of what you consider to be your best life, your life full of success, the things that bring you joy and passion and happiness in this life. I am a success and goals strategist. We'll talk a little bit more about what that actually means later, because I know it's just like a bunch of words, right? I am a retired consultant. Okay, hello, and here I have retired from that life. I have given up. I'm never doing another brand consultation. I'm going to talk about that a little bit also. But today, I really wanted to come talk to you about what you're doing here. Because at the end of the day, if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening for a reason. So what is that reason? The reason you're here is because you are a visionary. Now, maybe you don't know that you're a visionary, but guess what? You, my dear, are a visionary. So I wanted to talk today about what it means to be a visionary. Before we can talk about what it means to be a visionary, we have to talk about how you know you are a visionary. So yes, if you're here, you're listening to this, you're watching this, you are engaging with me at all, you're probably a visionary. But here's how you can know for sure. If you are experiencing deep senses and sensibilities of overwhelm, okay, not any one day, maybe not, 2 or 3 days out of the week, most days, you are kind of struck with this notion of feeling overwhelmed by your thoughts, overwhelmed by your ideas, overwhelmed by things you want to do and try in the world, just a deep sense of overwhelm. Just these things are kind of crippling you. They're crushing down on you like waves almost that are kind of coming in to take over your mind. You just feel this sense of deep overwhelm. I'm telling you now, you are a visionary, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit more about what you can do with that feeling and sense of overwhelm. But suffice it to say, if that's you, just go ahead and raise your hand right now. Just raise your hand. Trust me, you are in good company. You are a visionary, okay? That's way one. Another way that you know that you are a visionary is if everything around you, your sense of satisfaction is kind of low with just about everything around you. Your job, sense of satisfaction is low. Your life in what you do every day, sense of satisfaction is relatively low. And it's not because you don't have a good life, air quotes around good life, right? It's not that you don't have a good life. It's just that the life that you have doesn't quite feel like it fits you. It almost feels like you're living somebody else's life, some version of somebody else's life that doesn't quite feel right for you. So we'll call that sense of satisfaction. So first thing up, if you've got that sense of overwhelm and it's just kind of like on you, kind of persistently and all the time, visionary. If you have a lower sense of satisfaction with things that are going on kind of around you and you feel like you're living somebody else's life for all intents and purposes, visionary. The third thing is in the way that you view your next steps. And there's going to go 4 things total. So the third thing is the way that you view your next steps. You don't see any steps. Basically, you look to the next steps. In the society that we live in, we're always talking about, well, what's next for you? What's next for you? So it's almost impossible to not think about and look at your next steps. So when you are a visionary, your next steps, there aren't any. There are no next steps. Almost because there are so many next steps. It feels like, I got to do this. 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 And it's just like this never ending feeling of like, there's so much I have to do. I don't even know what to do next. And honestly, that's a little bit separate from the overwhelm. Overwhelm is kind of like there's so many thoughts, so many ideas, so much stuff. But this like not really knowing what your next step is, that's the part that kind of keeps you stuck and stagnant, right? It's the thing that always makes your life, back to the second thing, it always kind of makes your life feel like the thing that doesn't quite fit because you never know what step to take next because you could take a million different steps, right? So first thing, overwhelm, right? Second thing, lower sense of satisfaction with kind of the way things are in your life, in your ecosystem. Stuff kind of doesn't quite feel like it's your life. Third thing, next step, yeah, right. Right? Like not even to know what that next step is because there's so many possibilities. It's like one of those stories where, like a storybook where you could basically kind of choose your own adventure and you're kind of like, which one do I choose? I don't know. I don't know which one to choose. And then the fourth thing is the way that you experience work. Listen, when you go to work, if it feels like this sucks, but I'm okay. This is terrible, but I'm going to get through it. If I just keep pushing, maybe I'll get promoted and then maybe that'll be better. Maybe if I change locations and you're trying to kind of manipulate and maneuver the job that you have to try to make it fit you a little bit better, but no matter what you do, it still doesn't quite fit. Visionary. So listen, if any of those four things or all of those four things, like the fifth option, E would be all of the above, right? So if any of those things or all of those things feel like you, listen, you are with your people. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Okay. Because you are a visionary. Now, here's the challenge that you're going to face as you figure out what to do with your visionary energy. Hey, you want to know exactly what kind of visionary you are? Me too. Head over to my website, theshaunak.com, and take my free visionary personality quiz. I designed this quiz just for visionary people just like you to get more clarity and more direction on exactly what to do to best channel your visionary energy. Head over right now, theshaunak.com, and click on Take the Free Visionary Personality Quiz. Now that you know you're a visionary, now that you understand that these four things that have kind of been plaguing you in some way, shape, or form in some varying degrees, it's like, okay, cool. It's not me. I'm not losing it. I'm not actually going out of my mind. This is not something that, I need to be diagnosed for. The only diagnosis you need right now is visionary. Okay. And that's enough by itself, because here's the thing. Now that you know you are a visionary, now that you know you are not by yourself, now that you know that you're like this, and it's not just kind of by chance, here's the thing that you have to know to kind of help bring your perspective shift around in a way that now you can start to use that visionary energy and allow it to work for you. All of those things, the overwhelm, the low sense of satisfaction, the kind of not knowing which step to take next, and then the figuring out the work and not really knowing what to do with that, all of that is for a reason. And it's not to torture you. How about that? How about those apples? Because I know that it feels torturous almost to be in this visionary situation where you're kind of like in the world and everybody else around you is like normal and everybody's fine with being miserable and it's really not okay with you and it's not settling well somewhere deep down on the inside of you, but it's kind of the status quo with everybody else around you. So you don't really know who would you even complain to about that? I don't like my job. Right. Well, 90% of the world is going to kind of go along with you and say that they don't like their jobs. The difference is you, visionary, are the way that you are, and it's uncomfortable for you for a reason, because that is meant to be the thing that ignites your superpower. Hello in here. That is what's going on. All of those four things that you feel, whatever degree that you feel them in, those things are meant to ignite your superpower. Those things are intended to bring you to a place of self-honesty, reflection, and need to move forward, so much so that it almost forces out your superpower. So think about every superhero movie you've ever seen. This is good. Visionaries and superheroes have a lot in common. So you'll hear me talk about this a lot. So think about every superhero movie you have ever seen. It's always some pressure. It's always something that comes on the outside of the superhero that forces the power out, right? So if you think about someone who, you get bit by a spider, hello, Spider-Man, right? Now you have webs coming out of your hands. Knows where your superpowers come from. You are from another planet altogether. So now when you get into a new environment, the outside environment, Superman, allows your powers to be able to come out and be exposed, right? Like, let's get a little bit more granular. You fall into a pot of ooze or gamma rays. We'll use gamma rays. So you fall into some gamma rays. You're doing an experiment trying to better the world and you get struck by some gamma rays. Hello, Hulk, right? From Bruce Banner to Hulk. And here you are now impacted by something from the outside in a way that ignites your superpower. So for you, visionary, while all those things are fictional, okay, at least to the best of my knowledge and understanding those things are fictional, even though all those things are fictional, for you, visionary, what happens to ignite your superpower is a sense of dissatisfaction. And you start to notice it. It's feeling overwhelmed all the time. And you start to notice it. It's in the noticing of these four kind of categories of things that are happening outside of you that start to begin to ignite your superpower, okay? The first thing you have to do is be honest. That's like an underlying theme of this entire podcast. You've got to have a deep degree of self-honesty because listen, nothing about your life is ever going to change until you're willing to be honest with yourself. So the only thing you have to be honest with at this point is, are any of those four things the things that kind of plague me? Are those my things? Am I overwhelmed? Do I have a low sense of satisfaction with the life that I am currently living? Do I honestly not know what my next steps are? Because there's so many options of steps. Not just that I can't see any steps, but I can't see any steps because there's too many steps. There's too many things that I could be doing, right? And then the other thing, like work just at its core has lost its intrigue, it's lost its luster for you. You can't find a position inside the company that feels right. And not just that company, most companies, most jobs that you've worked feel that way. You can't remember the last time. If that's your stuff, being honest with yourself to say, that's my stuff, at bare minimum, allows you to be able to identify yourself as visionary. And I want you to take comfort in knowing that you are a visionary, because being a visionary means that there's a visionary process for you. The reason, so this is like the second thing that I want to talk about. So self-honesty is really important. The second thing is you've got to have a way to engage with the process, some steps. Because again, because you're a visionary, those steps are kind of like, they're kind of blurred. You can't really tell what to do next. So you need a way to be able to cultivate your visionary energy into an actual process that you can then follow. Here's the caveat. Not every process is going to work for you. Lots of people have made processes in this world for people who they want to start businesses, they want to, lose 10 pounds or whatever. There's all these processes for people that want to do these finite things. The challenge for you, visionary, is that it's not just one thing, it's the thing. Every process is not designed to walk you up to the door of the thing that is your thing. There are processes, for a lot of them, to help people get to a place that they can already identify. The challenge with visionary life is that you can see so much bigger. You can go so much further. Once your superpowers are ignited, you can go so much further and imagine so much bigger than most systems are designed to bring out. So your challenge then is to be able to know well enough what steps, what process, what system is going to be the best thing for you. Because the reality is, without the steps, without the process, without the system, that sense of satisfaction is going to stay low. That overwhelm is going to stay. These things are going to stay until you get yourself inside of a process that allows you to walk through the actual steps of using that visionary energy that you have to bring those superpowers out to the top and allow you to begin to create a life and style of life that you actually want to live, something that you get to love every day, because that's not lost for you. Just because you're a visionary, just because you can't work a regular 9 to 5, just because you don't really want to start a traditional business, because, we'll save that for another episode, because I know, visionary, those things are things that plague you also, because you're like, oh, no job, cool, I'll start a business, but I don't really want to do that either, right? Yes, I know, absolutely been there myself, right? With this visionary energy, Once that superpower gets ignited because you're able to identify that all these things that are around you, you identify first that all these things that are around you are identifying you as visionary. All right, Shauna has pointed it out. Great. Now you know. And so now that pressure from the outside, that external thing is igniting your superpower. And once you get those superpowers, you're going to start to learn how to hone in on those, just like a superhero, right? You're going to be able to start to understand how to use them for the best good. Because ultimately, next thing, you've got to get inside of a process that helps you find the thing, not just a thing. The burden of being a visionary is that you can't just pick anything. That is the burden of the visionary. This is the third thing. You can't just pick a thing. You have to engage with the thing that was meant for you to do, the thing that is the reason why you are here, the thing that is your thing, that if you don't do it, it won't get done in this world. Now, listen, that's not to be pressure filled. That's just meant to tell you are absolutely here for a reason, visionary person. The challenge that you've been facing is that you didn't know you were a visionary. You didn't know that. You thought you were crazy. You thought it was you. You thought that, you were just the oddball. You were the gray goose kind of a thing. You were the one that was the odd man out on the fringe because not everybody understands how to talk to, address, and deal with visionaries. So now that you know you are one, look for your superpowers. What has this pressure from the outside started to create in you? Are you more resilient? Are you more kind? Are you more forgiving? Are you more patient? What are you as a result of that pressure? And then listen, this is my number one thing. Get quiet and start to listen for the thing. Now you can do that on your own, but at the end of the day, what you really need to maximize your superpowers, what you really need to turn that visionary energy into something amazing, into something great, into the life that you actually love and want to live is a process. That's what you need. But listen, you are not lost. You are not too much. You are not anything that anybody said you were because they didn't understand how to deal with the visionaries. You're just a visionary. And this is absolutely your time. It's absolutely your season. And this moment is absolutely for you. Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Love Monday podcast. It's truly my honor to join with you as you're taking these next steps in your visionary journey. Listen, while you're here, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the podcast? That way you'll get notified every time we release a new episode. And you should share this with somebody else that you know is a visionary who isn't quite on their journey yet. Get them on the journey with you. There's nothing better than doing this with friends. And if you've really been enjoying the podcast, give us a great rating. We'd love to hear feedback from all of our listeners, so we'd love to hear from you too. Thanks again for being here, and we'll see you next time.